Welcome to On the Move, a business record effort that aims to help you hear directly from leaders who are shaping Iowa's business community. I'm your host, Chris Conetzkey, President and Group Publisher of the Business Record. We've got a fantastic leader with us here today. Dr. Richard Deming, he's the Medical Director of Mercy Cancer Center in Des Moines, Iowa, and the founder of Above and Beyond Cancer, which is celebrating its 15th anniversary this year. So welcome, Dr. Deming.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
All right. Why don't you tell us just a little bit about your role with Above and Beyond Cancer as a founder of that organization, and of course Mercy as well.
Yeah, so founded Above and Beyond Cancer in 2011. So it's a cancer survivorship organization. Above and Beyond Cancer is dedicated to elevating the mind, body, and spirit of all of those touched by cancer throughout their cancer journey. And that guiding principle has really affected what we are doing with Above and Beyond Cancer and the work that I do. You know, as a cancer doctor, taking care of cancer patients has been something that I've been doing, my entire professional career. Part of taking care of cancer patients is killing cancer cells, but that's not the only thing. And so Above and Beyond Cancer is something we do outside of the cancer center, and it's really about how do you take a bump in the road of life, like cancer, and use it as a springboard rather than a barrier. And so we get involved with encouraging physical activity, nutrition, social connection, and encourage individuals to really challenge themselves. If you don't reach above and beyond what you know you can do, you'll have no idea of what you can accomplish.
That mindset, when you describe it like that, makes so much sense. But I'm sure it wasn't maybe as understood 15 years ago when you were starting that approaching things medically versus mentally. I imagine that's a barrier that you all had to try to figure out.
Yeah, it's really a philosophy of life. And I would say that it's a philosophy of life that I as I became immersed in the community of Des Moines and at Mercy Medical Center, I knew that killing cancer cells was part of what it means to be a cancer doctor, but I also knew that finding joy in life and living a life with meaning and purpose is really a necessary thing for humans to contemplate. So as I had the opportunity to care for more and more cancer patients, I also had the opportunity to talk with them, not just about what's your cancer and how do we get rid of it, but how do you live a life that brings joy to your life and joy to others. And it becomes really a lifestyle that many people embrace, especially when you're told you have cancer. I mean, it's different than other diseases in that mortality is in the room from day one. Mm-hmm. Even as an individual might be told that you have a very highly curable cancer, when you or a loved one is told you have cancer, it reminds you of two things you try to forget most of your life. And that is, number one, you're reminded that you are mortal and you will die someday. And you're reminded that you may die at a time you didn't plan. Mm-hmm. So individuals, time and time again, what do? They get the best possible team around them. They learn all they can about this obstacle they're facing, and then they proceed with hope and optimism. Mm-hmm. And as they come through the cancer journey, almost every cancer patient that I've had the opportunity to care for comes out the other end with this greater sense of gratitude for everyone that had helped them. And that gratitude gets transformed into paying it forward and wanting to help others. But the other thing that comes through is when you go through a difficult situation with support, you come out the other end with a greater sense of your own strength. Mm-hmm. And that is really what resiliency is about. And you come through the treatment. I wouldn't say that necessarily cancer gives you strength, but you find the strength that's always been there. Mm-hmm. And recognizing it's there is resilience, and you might even be tempted to put a mountain in your pathway as you come out through the cancer journey.
When you were thinking about founding the organization, what were some of the considerations? What gave you that kind of extra push to go, all right, I live this way, I'm viewing it this way, but how do I put an organization behind it?
Yeah, and you're exactly right. It was sort of, I was going through this time where, okay, I'm now in Des Moines, Iowa. I am finally done with all of my education. I am a cancer doctor. I am doing what I had just trained for, it seemed like 30 years. Mm-hmm. what is important to me and what brings joy to my life. And there's a big difference between joy and pleasure. And as I contemplated what brings joy to my life, I knew it was things like engaging in vigorous physical activity, taking on challenges, learning new things, being outdoors, and helping other people. So as I started counseling my patients, not just on how do we get rid of your cancer, but how do you live a life of meaning and purpose, we started talking about those sorts of things. Physical activity, challenges, social connections, being outdoors, and given the opportunity to then create this cancer survivorship program, it was all about incorporating those things: physical activity, challenges, being outdoors, social connection, and started off kind of small with, a lecture series to inform individuals about not just cancer, but about meaning and purpose, but then also to bring into the Cancer Center things like physical activity, cycling, hiking, walking, rowing,
Mountain climbing. Yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that? I know that's some of the things that have gotten headlines in the past, and I know that people are always curious about it. You just got back from Nepal, you told me earlier. So talk just a little bit about how you incorporate that into the program.
So once a year we do a mind, body, spirit journey. So throughout the year, 52 weeks a year, we do physical activity, we do social connection, we do nutrition, cooking classes, all of those things. But once a year, I take a group of cancer survivors and caregivers on a mind, body, spirit journey, and most of the time that has involved mountain climbing. Now, climbing a mountain can be a metaphor for going through cancer, but climbing a mountain can actually be climbing a mountain. And the parallels are that there is difficulty and challenge. And whenever anyone comes on a journey with us, we promise there will be suffering along the way. And our very first mountain climb with Above and Beyond Cancer was 2011, Everest Base Camp, Mount Everest Base Camp in Nepal, in the Himalayas, 29 cancer survivors and caregivers. The individuals on that trip were men and women with various types of cancer, breast cancer, prostate cancer, head and neck cancer, lung cancer, lymphoma. What they had in common were that, number one, none of them were mountain climbers. What they had in common were, number two, none of them were athletes. Number three, none of them had Mount Everest on their bucket list. What they had in common was their cancer diagnosis. Not just their cancer diagnosis, but the courage and confidence they gained through their cancer journey to be willing to put a mountain in front of their path.
And so you're just back from one. You're feeling a little fresh, I assume, after the most.
Yeah,
recent.
I have a few extra red blood cells that I got at altitude. Yeah, that's good.
Well, good. We'll see you out running around Des Moines then. As an organization, you founded it. It's continued to grow. You're 15 years into that. Talk a little bit about the organization's growth, and then maybe we'll turn towards what maybe is next for the organization.
So we are still, even at 15 years of age, not unlike a 15-year-old person, trying to figure out what we really want to be when we grow up. So we started off as a cancer survivor organization that encouraged individuals and provided programming for physical activity along with social connection, meaning and purpose, and then sort of one trip a year. And it was really centralized here in Des Moines, Iowa, where I have my medical practice. Over the years, we have expanded the number of activities that we do, have included even, ballroom dancing and parachute jumping, in addition to mountain climbing and cycling and hiking. But we've also brought on some additional programming that are different than where we started. For example, we now also provide a program where Above and Beyond Cancer provides free hotel rooms for cancer patients in the state of Iowa that are getting their care in Iowa more than 50 miles away from where they live. And as you know, many people in rural Iowa have to drive quite a ways for their cancer care. So in addition to the physical activity, meaning, and purpose, we also do some practical things like providing free lodging for individuals that have to travel for their cancer care. We still do that mind, body, spirit journey once a year. It is something that gets my juices going. It's an opportunity for individuals to really, really reach above and beyond what they ever thought they could do, get out of their comfort zone. It changes lives.
I imagine as you're talking about some of these things, I'm going, man, those are things that I of course don't wish to have cancer, but the lessons that you're espousing and you're talking about are things that anybody could probably be applying a little bit better into their lives. Maybe.
Absolutely. You know, I said from the outset, it's really about how do you take a bump in the road of life and turn it into a springboard instead of a barrier. So as a cancer doctor, the bump that's common to all of the people I'm with is cancer. But philosophically, the bump could be any disease. The bump could be bankruptcy. The bump could be relationship problems. How do we take bumps in the road of life and use them as something that we learn from, engage in difficulty as something that allows us to find the strength within ourselves?
Even framing it as a bump is just a different lens on how you might perceive that. This is a bit personal in nature, but I had a situation that I came up and I had to go to the cancer center, and fortunately I did not have cancer. But for a period of time, I had that mental weight, and I had the same questions that you're talking about going through your mind. That type of care for people at that point it's really interesting how your brain starts to change during those moments. So
yeah, and philosophy makes a difference. How we view our role on this earth. You know, we all know people that think they kind of want to live forever, but don't have a clue what they would do this afternoon to bring joy to their life or bring joy to somebody else's life. So we believe that contemplation of what brings joy, the deep-seated joy that includes meaning and purpose, is really an important function of all humans, but I think it's critical for those humans that are facing mortality.
Joy versus pleasure, you mentioned that earlier. How would you define the two?
Yeah, you know, pleasure can be a beer on the beach and nothing wrong with that, but it's not like it changes you in a deep way. So I would say that joy is more what Aristotle will call eudaimonia. It is living a life that is meaningful, purposeful. It's sort of living in an autobiography that you would like to reread.
When you think about your vision for Above and Beyond Cancer for maybe the next 15 years, you said you're still growing up as an organization. What does some of that perhaps look like, or maybe what your wish would look like?
Yeah, so I would say in Iowa, it is being able to make our services more available to more people throughout Iowa, including rural Iowa. And now, you know, after COVID, we've all learned how to do some things remotely. So some of the programming that we do can be done remotely. So as we start to expand into things like music therapy and art therapy, and start to provide other sorts of opportunities for social cohesion, that can be done remotely. Other activities, I mean, you can do physical activities sort of with a remote coach, but other things really require and are better when we do it together in person. So we're also looking at how can we provide programming to rural sites, and we've realized that we've got a couple of demonstration projects, one in Clinton, one in Atlantic, where we've got a cancer center, we've got engaged personnel, we've got a fitness center in those communities, and we've got individuals that are champions of bringing this type of programming to that setting. So we're working kind of as a coaching and setting up that template so that those communities, we can help facilitate the type of programming that we do in Des Moines, Iowa, in the rural community. And then who knows, if we take over all of Iowa, what's next? I mean, maybe the moon?
Well, they're getting closer, I think, in a couple of years to getting a colony
there.
Yeah,
when they have the first cancer center there and a champion on the moon, we'll be partnering with them.
What's maybe a community challenge? Maybe what I'll preface is with our economic forecast this year. The topic of cancer came up as part of an economic panel and the effect here in our community. And I know that that's a challenge that there seems to be some folks coalescing around trying to understand what's happening with our cancer rates. And so maybe talk about that and how Above and Beyond might fit into that equation.
You know, it's a good point. So it's, all humor aside, cancer is a serious business, and in Iowa it is very serious. Iowa is number 2 in the nation in terms of cancer incidence, and it's also one of the very few states where the incidence is going up. So there are many known risk factors that contribute to cancer. And some of those we have complete control over, whether we smoke or not, but some we don't have control over.
We just had one of our episodes or a podcast about the economy and smoking. I think our rate in Iowa was 14% versus the average is 10, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like a small percent, but that's a 50%
Yes.
increase, right?
Yes, but
It
when
took me by
when I was
surprise.
born, it was 56%,
Right.
and it went from 56% down to basically 15%. Not just because the Surgeon General said smoking increased the risk of cancer, but then we had public policy that cigarette tax, the clean air bill, where you can smoke. So two things. One, research that the facts of what does contribute to Iowa's increased cancer rate. But then second, how do you take that knowledge and turn it into public policy to mitigate the risk? So
Which is the hardest part, I would imagine.
it's very difficult. And some of the things that contribute to the increased risk of cancer actually do provide us some benefits. And so it's always about mitigating the risk. So we at Above and Beyond Cancer, and myself personally, want to be involved in this conversation. What is the research telling us? What is causing cancer in Iowa? What's contributing to it? And how can we mitigate? So we've been talking about not only tobacco use, alcohol use, obesity, lack of physical activity, but also environmental factors such as the environment, what we're exposed to. Radon in Iowa is an issue. So Above and Beyond Cancer is also always talking about what can we learn more so that we can help advocate for public policy to prevent cancers that can be prevented, continue to advocate for screening and early detection, and then a really big one, make sure everyone has access to health care. With the insurance rates going up and the loss of some of the special premiums for some of the governmental programs, it's becoming more difficult for everyone to be able to afford good health care. And if you don't have good health care, you're not going to be able to get the preventive services and the early detection.
The podcast that I mentioned was a prelude to our Power Breakfast that you're going to be participating on as well. And the part that I always kind of struggle with is you can talk about healthcare and talk about cancer, and that feels to me like the end symptom of a lot of different factors. It can kind of leave you going, oh gosh, what the heck are we going to do? So you're a hopeful, joyful person. Help us, give me some joy or hope around helping move that in a positive direction.
Yeah, well, I would say, number one, the United States has enough resources to really do what they want if we can appropriately allocate resources. And that there's, in a democracy that we have, there is an obligation for those who have much to be able to help those who have less. Now, part of that is a tax system that is intended to make sure that those who have the ability to contribute pay in more, and those who need the safety net are helped at times of need, and hopefully encouraged then to be able to eventually contribute as commensurate with their ability. So that's the basis of how the United States works, and we can't forget that. I know that we would all like to pay less in taxes, but frankly, the money we pay in taxes serves a very, very good purpose. Now, I am raising money for lots of different non-for-profits, but I would tell you that the government and what they do in terms of social protection and safety net is a worthy use of our tax resources. So I think we should not lose sight of the fact that our country works because we have a system where the government does get involved with doing important things like educating our children and involved in making sure that we have safety net programs so that those who may not be getting their health insurance from an employer have other opportunities by which they can get health insurance.
If businesses want to get involved with Above and Beyond Cancer or want to help support or support you, what are some ways that maybe they could be able to do that?
Yeah, we would love to help out and collaborate with anyone. So, number one, we are a not-for-profit, and everything we do is through philanthropy. So, individual philanthropy is important. About 72% of our budget is made up by individual contributions. We also have the ability to apply for and seek competitive grants, whether it's from the American Cancer Society, the Iowa Cancer Consortium, the Iowa Oncology Society, and other granting organizations. But we also provide all of our services free, so anyone who has been touched by cancer as a cancer patient or a spouse or family member, we have programming that is helpful for them. We also go into various businesses and give talks about, how do we prevent cancers that are preventable, talk about screening, talk about early detection, and then talk about the role that we play in terms of helping to reduce the burden of cancer. Some of the things we do actually have very tangible effects on improving the cure of cancer. So, for example, 2 months ago, major article in the New England Journal of Medicine, it was stage 3 colon cancer. Everybody had surgery. Everybody had chemotherapy. The patients were then randomized to either get vigorous physical activity or just do what they would normally do. Those that were enrolled in a vigorous physical activity program after surgery and chemotherapy had a statistically significant improvement in survival by engaging in physical activity as part of an overall cancer regimen. Now, those sorts of things aren't paid for by insurance, and that's one of the roles of nonprofits like Above and Beyond Cancer, is to provide those meaningful activities that aren't going to be paid for by insurance.
Medicine that's not medicine, right? Which I think that's maybe there's an advocacy thing there.
Right, food is medicine, right. Exercise is medicine.
Right. All right, last couple of questions. So this is just a little bit about you. I'm sure you want to deflect from about yourself, but a couple of little questions for you. What's something we find you doing in your free time?
So I love being outside and I love engaging in physical activity. So I would say you're going to find me out there hiking and biking and swimming and, engaging in vigorous physical activity. But I'm also a big fan of poetry. So
Shakespeare a little bit before, I think.
I've always got a poem in my pocket. Okay. So that's something I'm interested in. I would say the humanities in general. I realize the healing power of things like poetry, literature, music, and not only is it healing, but I think it helps people provide not just get pleasure, but actually deep-seated joy.
From a music standpoint, if we came into your house and you were listening to something, what would maybe be playing?
Tina Turner would be, yeah.
So you were a fan of the musical then when?
Yes. So I teach a spin class for cancer survivors, and I've got at least 3 or 4 Tina songs on, and so I like upbeat music that just kind of helps propel me in my physical activity.
Maybe I said business book, but a book that you think maybe business leaders would enjoy in some fashion.
Yeah, The Book of Joy. The Book of Joy by the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu and Douglas Abrams. Wonderful book that, again, is about not pleasure, but joy. And some people might be surprised to find that joy is not like the absence of pain. Joy is not like avoiding difficult situations. The path to joy goes right through suffering. And I think it's important to figure out how do we incorporate suffering, which is within our life and always will be. How can you find joy even in the midst of suffering?
I think I could probably talk to you for another hour or so maybe I'll just bring you back so we can do that sometime. But I want to say thank you again. Anything else that you want to share about Above and Beyond Cancer or your work?
I just want to thank everyone in this community that has been supportive of Above and Beyond Cancer since 2011. None of us is as good as all of us. This organization wouldn't exist if it weren't for the generosity of Des Moines and so many individuals in Des Moines that have contributed to the success of Above and Beyond Cancer. Finally, I want to thank all my patients and everyone who's been touched by cancer. This is an organization that serves them and is served by them, and I'm just so grateful to be in Des Moines and to be part of this.
Well, thank you for being here, and thank you for the work that you're doing and continue to do in the organization. And thank you for joining us for On the Move. We're so grateful to have fantastic leaders in this community, and I've gotten a great chance to get to know you today as well, and I know our audience did as well. We know one of the secrets to our community's success is that the way that we connect on a personal level with each other. So do me a favor, as Dr. Deming is on the move literally to the top of mountains, please find a way to give him an extra hand and his organization extra hand as he works to help shape the future here in Des Moines.